Lights, camera, a familiar figure. The set was buzzing, directors calling for quiet, crew heading to their positions, cameras rolling. And amidst all that, a moment that had been years in waiting, Meghan Markle on set again, in front of the lens. It happened on the 5th of November, 2025, in Pasadena, California, where production for the upcoming film, Close Personal Friends, was underway. According to sources, Meghan appeared on set, playing herself in a small cameo alongside a star-studded cast including Brie Larson, Lily Collins, Jack Quaid, and Henry Golding. For Meghan Markle, this wasn't just another cameo. It marked the end of a self-imposed acting absence. Her last substantive on-screen role had been on the USA Network series Suits, where she portrayed Rachel Zane until her engagement to Prince Harry in 2017, and subsequent royal life drew her away from Hollywood. Why does this moment matter? Because for Meghan Markle, every move from here isn't just about the art. It's about identity, brand, legacy, and the precarious intersection of Hollywood, royalty, and personal reinvention. Let's rewind further. In 2017, the announcement of Meghan's engagement to Prince Harry sent shockwaves through two worlds, the royal institution and Hollywood. She was leaving Suits, leaving her Hollywood persona, to become a duchess. The career pause she accepted was symbolic of her transition into a new brand, one built on service, monarchy, and celebrity combined. Fast forward to 2020, Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal duty. They moved to Montecito, California, and begin charting a new life, their new brand, media deals, activism, public image. The world watched them build something new. But for Meghan, acting had always been more than a job. It was identity. Her early roles, from guest spots to Suits, were stepping stones, visible proof she could belong in front of the camera. Yet she put that aside. And now, 8 years later, she's returning. On set, insiders say she seemed relaxed and happy. She introduced herself to crew members. She smiled, not the practiced pose, but something genuine. For a moment, the narrative of Duchess away from acting gave way to actor back in action. But this comeback carries layers. Yes, it's a role, a cameo. Yes, it's a return to what she once did for fun, recognition, craft. Yet at the same time, it's a signal. A message to Hollywood. A message to the monarchy. A message to her brand. Because when Meghan Markle steps in front of the camera again, the stakes are bigger than the scene. Let's look at the film itself. Close Personal Friends. A comedic movie about a celebrity couple, a regular couple, blurred boundaries, friendship, and fame. A backdrop perfect for Meghan's self-referential role. Her cameo as herself creates a meta moment. She becomes both the subject and the object, the star and the narrative. This duality has always been part of Meghan's brand. The actor who became princess, who became media figure, who became wife, activist, and now brand leader. And with this role, she is quietly shifting again. This is not the typical comeback. It's subtle, strategic, controlled. It's not headlined by talk show circuits or Instagram teasers. It's whispered, she's back. I ever won, and right no. The public isn't yet flooded with premieres, red carpets, major press junkets. She's dipping her toe. Why? Because this is a high-stakes move. From her end, what's on the line? First, credibility. The world used to know Meghan the actor. If she fails now, or the project underwhelms, that past status becomes one more thing she can't rely on. Second, brand alignment. Meghan's brand in recent years has moved toward activism, lifestyle, business ventures. Acting hasn't been the center of it. A return risks appearing like a retreat or a misstep unless framed properly. Third, royal optics. Though no longer a working royal, Meghan still carries the weight of royal ties. That means every film set, camera angle, and role choice will be scrutinized through the lens of monarchy as much as Hollywood. And so, in everything about this comeback, from the film choice, the role, the visibility Meghan has to balance these ecosystems, let's pause and visualize that set in Pasadena. Afternoon light, crew buzzing. Meghan steps out of a trailer, casual but polished. She has on understated makeup, a simple outfit, no headlines written in her appearance. Yet cameras are rolling. She greets microphone mic checks. She walks toward the mark. Inside, the director cues action. Meghan says her line. The take ends. She shakes hands, laughs with the co-star, fade to next. And then it's done. A short cameo, a soft return. But for those watching closely, the ripple begins. In Hollywood corridors, word is going out. Meghan Markle is back. She's exploring. She's testing. She's willing. And that sets off the speculation. Why now? Because reprise matters more than return. Because in the world of public figures, restart requires reason. And that's what we'll explore in the next section. But for now, remember, this isn't a headline. It's a move. A quiet one, but one with volume. When the camera turns on Meghan Markle again, the world will not just watch. They will interpret, and she knows it. Why now? That's the question that ripples beneath this moment. Why would Meghan Markle, after 8 years away from acting, step back into the frame now, of all times? Why return when she has a platform, a foundation, a global identity outside Hollywood already built? The answer isn't one thing. It's a web of motives: personal, professional, public, political. Let's start with the most human one: identity. For nearly a decade, Meghan has been everything except what she began as: Duchess, wife, activist, mother, media subject, brand partner, podcaster, royal renegade, executive producer, but never just actress. The title that once introduced her has been sitting in a quiet corner of her biography for years. And beneath the public battles, beneath the headlines and contracts, there has always been the simple truth that acting was her first craft, her first voice, her first route to being seen. It was all taken or traded when she entered the royal machine. To walk away from acting wasn't about career. It was transition. It was duty. It was sacrifice. She never got to say goodbye to it with intention. So this is more than a comeback. It's reclamation. Now, layer that with the brand factor. In 2020 and 2021, Meghan and Harry were the most valuable names in media. They secured multi-million-dollar deals, landing projects with Netflix, Spotify, Penguin Random House, and more. The world was curious, polarized, invested. But brand momentum is like a tide. It rises, and then asks what's next. In 2023 and 2024, we started to see the shift. Deals came under pressure. Projects were delayed or canceled. Spotify backed out. Netflix questioned renewal. Even Archetypes, once positioned as a defining series, was shelved. The narrative paused. And whether inevitable or not, something happened that no public figure wants to hear. The public moved on. Meghan and Harry weren't generating the same energy they used to. Their content wasn't sparking viral waves or cultural shifts. Their story, so explosive in the early stages of royal exit, was losing its fuel. So when a new move appears, especially one from Meghan, it can't be seen as small. It's strategic, not a desperation move, an evolution one. Meghan knows something fundamental about modern fame. You can't stay still. Neutrality kills influence. Brands don't reward stability, they reward momentum. She needed a pivot. Netflix docuseries? Done. Royal bombshells? Done. Podcasts? Done. And done with controversy. A comeback to acting may be a risk, but it's clear. Safe or not, it's movement. Now zoom out. Hollywood is a very particular place. Stories have cycles. Time is shallow. Stars fade. But comebacks? Comebacks are gold. A former lead actress turned duchess, turned renegade, turned activist, turned reluctant Hollywood outsider, who returns as herself at exactly the moment she needs to redefine her narrative. It's compelling, it's meta, and it reignites curiosity. And let's not forget the obvious. Film is where Meghan can control tone, script, framing. This isn't an unscripted tell-all. It's performance within parameters. It's safer. But there is one more layer, something more delicate, more cutting. While this cameo is happening, another conversation is happening in London, one about royal relevance, reputation, and even titles. The monarchy hasn't forgotten. The tabloids haven't stopped. Meghan's return to acting does something that no press release or Oprah sit-down could do. It reminds the world she is not either duchess or defector. She is both. And that is a brand position more valuable than it looks. Especially in a world where crossover is everything. Think about it. The palace doesn't act. Hollywood does. The crown doesn't pivot. Celebrities evolve. Royalty is static. Entertainment is fluid. Meghan crossing back into acting blurs the lines again. It makes her unpredictable and therefore interesting. She's building a new kind of hybrid brand. Not royal, not Hollywood, something else. Something she wasn't allowed to be in either world. Self-directed. This return is not about suits, not about resume, not about fame hunger. It's about agency. After years of being the woman whose life was narrated by tabloids, by palace advisors, by anonymous sources, this cameo says, "I decide how I appear. I decide what I return to. You don't write the third act, I do." Internally, this means something subtle but powerful. She is no longer the exile. She's the creator. And this move is not isolated. It connects to her broader shift. Archewell is rebranding. New projects are being plotted. The WME representation deal is active. There are whispers of lifestyle products, female leadership ventures, global media expansion. This cameo is not about the film. It's the trailer. It's a preview of a new phase. A phase where Meghan is no longer fighting the narrative, but building one. And that's the key difference. When Meghan left acting, she was entering a world built on silence and symbolism. When she left the monarchy, she was entering a world built on reaction and rebellion. This time, she's not walking away. She's walking back in, and she's doing it on her terms. Not as Rachel Zane, not as Duchess Meghan, not as podcast host Meghan, just herself. And that, after 8 chaotic years of public identity negotiation, may be the most powerful move she's ever made. Music transitions into a darker, faster tempo. Because while this is happening, the critiques are gathering. The writers, the royal watchers, the Hollywood critics, the palace sources. Some are already asking, why would a humanitarian go back to acting? Why would a royal return to a career she abandoned? Why now? Why in this format? Why through this film? The simple answer? Because she can. The deeper answer? Because staying still is louder than moving forward. And Meghan Markle has learned one thing the hard way. If you don't decide the role, someone else will cast you anyway. Music cuts, silence. In the next section, we'll dive into the reactions, the analysis, the royal tension, the media spin, and the risks that come with this move. Because Meghan Markle stepping back into the spotlight isn't the end of a story. It's the start of a conflict. And only one question matters now. Will this comeback be her rebuild? Or her reckoning? Not everyone cheered. Not everyone watched that cameo moment and saw a clever rebrand. For some, Meghan Markle stepping back into acting didn't look like a return. It looked like a risk with consequences. Let's talk about the reactions the people watching this move very closely. The palace, the press, former colleagues, Hollywood strategists, royal watchers, critics, and curious followers alike. Because Meghan returning to the screen doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in a tension point between who she was, who she is, and who she's trying to be. Let's start with the firm. Their silence is loud, and that silence is not accidental. Sources close to royal press offices have already made it known in subtle ways. There will be no public congratulations, no nod of alignment, no polite statement of support like the kind we've seen for other working royals who explore outside projects. That's because for the monarchy, every choice Meghan makes now doesn't just reflect Meghan. It reflects the consequence of her exit. Here's what the palace sees. A former duchess returning to show business. A woman once bound by duty, now bound by her own direction. A person who traded tradition for independence and then began using that independence not just as a new path, but as a platform that often critiques the system she left. And now going back to acting, that complicates things. Because if Meghan Markle proves she can build a successful public brand without them, she becomes something the institution fears. A precedent, a reminder that power doesn't need permission. So for the monarchy, this isn't entertainment. It's proof that a royal title is not a cage, it can be a launch pad. For the royal press and commentators, the response has been predictable yet revealing. Newspapers in the UK have already begun framing the move with skepticism. Fame over duty, Hollywood over heritage, acting like a duchess, not being one. This isn't just criticism, This is narrative control. They're not critiquing the acting. They're critiquing the choice. Because a duchess returning to acting challenges the hierarchy the palace wants to preserve. It blurs the boundary between royalty and celebrity. A boundary the institution wants back. But the press is one voice. Hollywood is another. So how does Hollywood feel about Meghan's return? Curious, skeptical, watching. Because Hollywood doesn't play fair. They don't care about lineage. They care about value. And value is measured in one thing. Can you draw attention and can you hold it? Meghan's cameo has everyone talking. But is it enough to sustain a second act? That's what agents, producers, casting directors, and executives are asking now. Some quietly admire the move. They see the opportunity. Meghan brings global curiosity. She can elevate a film, draw conversations, bring press and cultural analysis. Others worry. They remember the Spotify deal that fell apart. The questions about podcast direction. The projects announced and shelved. The rumors of demanding conditions. The issues of image-heavy involvement and team friction. Hollywood has a long memory, especially when money is involved. And there's one more layer. Acting isn't like interviews or documentaries. You don't control the edit. You don't get final say. You perform and someone else assembles the story. Is Meghan prepared for that again? For the headlines that don't align with the press release? For the critiques that reduce performance to symbolism? Because it's coming. Already, cultural commentary is emerging. Is it noble to act again? Is she trivializing her royal platform? Is she playing a version of herself because she can't play anything else now? Even supporters with good intentions are asking, is this her reclaiming control or losing direction? But there's one group whose reaction matters more than any critic or headline. The public. The people who watched her on Suits. The people who followed her story through the veil. The wedding, the exit, the Oprah interview, the Netflix series, the Archetypes launch, the Montecito period. Some are thrilled. They see this return as a breath of fresh air, a chance for Meghan to step back into something she used to love before palace drama overshadowed everything. They're tired of the back and forth with the crown. They don't want Meghan the victim. They want Meghan the creator, the visionary, the woman writing her own line again. But some, and they're growing, aren't so sure. They see this move differently. Not as empowerment, but as a pivot away from accountability. Not as a comeback, but as a distraction. For them, the question isn't, why is Meghan acting again? It's why now, and what is she trying to outrun? That's the danger of a reputation in flux. It complicates everything you do, especially when that reputation is still tied to a royal surname, a controversial public exit, and a brand built around vulnerability and influence. And then there's the final, most unpredictable group of all. The industry insiders who read moves for strategy, not emotion. The ones who see Meghan not as an activist or actress, but as a monetized entity. And what they see is this. Meghan Markle is repositioning. She's not retreating. She's not apologizing. She's not recovering. She's shifting into something more flexible. Something less tied to platforms and more tied to presence. Because returning to acting even in a cameo does something her speeches, her books, her interviews no longer can. It reactivates the mystery. It creates distance between her and the narrative people think they already know. And in media, mystery is more valuable than vulnerability. It has currency. It feeds speculation. It pulls the camera back in. But that mystery comes with stakes, because comeback arcs aren't given. They're earned. And Meghan's not just trying to re-enter Hollywood, she's trying to reframe a story that's been running without her voice for years. She's trying to step back into a medium where she can be watched without having to explain. And that, more than anything, is the risk. Because the moment she steps back into the spotlight, she enters a world that will judge her again. Not as Duchess, not as wife, not as activist, as talent, as performer. Can she still hold a performance? Can she carry a story? Can she allow herself to be critiqued again? Not for her choices, but for her craft? The last time she acted, she was climbing. Now she's returning from a fall, a shift, an exile, depending on who you ask. And that's why this isn't safe. It's dangerous. But it's also inevitable, because people like Meghan don't disappear. They adapt. And the adaptations that come after silence are always the most revealing. Music fades into a moment of quiet. The question now isn't whether Meghan Markle can return to acting. It's whether the world still wants to watch her do anything at all. In the final section, we'll look ahead. Because whether this cameo is a spark or a signal, the future from here will answer one final question. Is Meghan Markle redefining herself again? Or is she running out of selves to perform? So what now? Meghan Markle is back on a set for the first time in nearly a decade. Cameras are rolling, lines are being memorized, costumes being fitted, but behind those lenses lies a question with more weight than any performance she ever delivered, not just in Hollywood, but on the global stage. Is this her comeback? Or is this her last pivot? Before the industry asks if there's anything left to pivot into, because this isn't just about a woman returning to acting, it's about a woman trying to outrun a story that was never fully hers. A woman caught between two industries that want to own her, the crown and the camera. Both unforgiving, both powerful, both still watching. Let's start where it began. The Meghan Markle of 2024 is not the Meghan Markle of Suits. She's not the young actress trying to break out of typecasting or guest roles. She's not just the biracial American woman who defied royal tradition by marrying a prince. She's not the newlywed duchess, stepping into churches, smiling under fascinators, clutching bouquets under cathedral arches. She's also not the woman sitting in a wide-shot interview with Oprah, holding back tears in a California garden. She's not just the voice in a podcast trying to break down stereotypes. She's not just the figure who left a palace and bought a compound. She's all of them. And none of them have fully worked. Not all the way. That's the truth Meghan rarely hears. Every chapter has been a reaction to being misunderstood. But what happens when the next chapter has to be something different? Something not rooted in survival, in crisis, in conflict, but in creation, in content, in craft. That's what makes this moment fragile and fascinating. Because acting isn't a platform. It's a test. And Hollywood is watching this test closely. Here's why. If Meghan succeeds in this return, if she delivers a performance that draws praise, ignites fan bases, earns respect, she doesn't just win back the spotlight, she wins back her narrative. She stops being the woman the headlines argue about, and becomes the woman the audience comes for. Because audiences don't debate actors the way they debate royals. They accept the performance or they don't. It's cleaner, it's brutal. It's honest. And for Meghan, that may be exactly what she wants. But let's flip the lens. What if this isn't about stardom? What if this return isn't about fame, but freedom? What if getting back into character is the only way Meghan can finally get out of the one she's been forced to play for 6 years? The Duchess, the rebel, the victim, the activist, the outcast, the woman who left the palace. Maybe the only way to free herself from those labels is to walk back onto a set and become someone else completely. Someone whose story is fiction. Someone with no headlines. Someone who has nothing to prove. Maybe acting is the only place where Meghan Markle can stop being herself, or at least the version of herself the world has decided is correct. But this moment, this gamble, this return isn't only about identity. It's about strategy. Because make no mistake, this move is calculated. There is timing here. A shift. A recalibration in Meghan's public image. You can feel it. You don't return to acting quietly. Especially not after royal scandals, media leaks, legal fights, memoirs, brand launches, broken contracts, and public opinion flipping more than once. This isn't random. It's strategic. And the strategy is this. Move out of the conversation and back into the frame. Because people don't demonize actors the way they demonize duchesses. People don't judge a character the way they judge a woman who dared refuse a crown. And people don't dissect someone's face, voice, or politics in a fictional role the same way they do in an interview. So how does this change things? Let's look forward. Because if this return works, if her performance draws praise, the ripple effect is huge. It unlocks new roles, new endorsements, new projects, new credibility. Suddenly, Netflix doesn't see Meghan Markle the media wildcard. They see Meghan Markle the lead talent, Suddenly, Vanity Fair doesn't want her for a headline interview. They want her for a cover story. Suddenly, producers don't see her as a liability. They see her as currency again. That's the power of a successful comeback. It doesn't just repair a brand, it resets it. But if it fails, if critics tear her apart, if headlines read, Duchess delivers disastrous return to acting, if audiences can't separate her performance from her past, she doesn't just lose a role, she loses her last safe pivot. Because when a public figure is no longer wanted in politics, in activism, in corporate media, in royal settings, or in Hollywood, there's nowhere left to go. That's why this moment matters. Not because it's glamorous, because it's the last real test of her agency. Meghan once said in an interview, "You don't lose the voice you were born with. You just have to learn how to use it differently." The question now is, does she still have a voice that people want to listen to, or a presence that people want to watch? That's the crossroads. That's the tension beneath the cameo, the announcement, the headlines about her return. That's why this isn't just a news story. It's a character arc. Meghan Markle is either about to star in the final act of a long public downfall, or the first scene of a bold transformation the world didn't see coming. And the most poetic part? We won't know until the cameras finish rolling, until critics write, until audiences react, until the silence breaks, until she speaks, not in a speech, not in a documentary, not in a broadcast, but in the simplest, oldest way a person can speak. Through a performance, through a character, through something that doesn't require apology, just presence. Something that says quietly, clearly, and without headlines, "I'm still here." The music swells, the cameras wait, the world leans forward. Because this is the moment before the reveal. Some call it a comeback, some call it a misstep, some call it desperate. But one thing is certain. It's not quiet, it's not safe, and it's not over. Meghan Markle has stepped back onto a set, into a frame, into a world where she can no longer be edited by people who hate her, only by editors who want the best take. And that's the twist. Hollywood doesn't want to destroy her. It wants to see if she's still watchable. And maybe that's all she ever wanted. A fair shot. No crown. No scandal. No interviews. Just a scene, a script, a role. A chance to be seen not as a headline or a symbol or a cause, but as a performer. The rest will be up to us.